All right, everyone. Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the SDR Hotline. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Friday. Just going to wait for some folks to come on board, and then we'll kind of officially get started. So for the folks who are here, why not share where you are tuning in from? For myself, I'm like right outside of Chicago in a lovely suburb called Schaumburg, Illinois, where it is probably, it's 65 today. So if you're calling in Chicago, folks, might as well talk about how nice the weather is today. If you're one of those folks who talks about the weather. All right. So today we're going to be talking about really about like career progression and development within sales development, and what that means in terms of moving into that next role, whether that's an account executive role, a CSM role. I've seen SDRs go into a solution engineering role, but really like what are the opportunities that are available to sales development reps when thinking about their next step in their career. Also going to be chatting about how to ask for more money when in the sales development position. So just to start off, right, for the folks who are here, if you have any tips or tricks for how to ask for a raise or how to ask for a promotion, feel free to drop those in. And also, if there's any questions that you have that you'd like to have answered today, feel free to just drop those in the chat. But Kelsey, I see you. How are you doing? All right. So for the first question that I have here is, I lost them. But for the first question that I have here is how to know when to ask for a raise. So the example the person is given is they want to stay as an SDR and take on more, but they don't want to be an account executive. I think there are a couple ways of approaching this. Ooh, can you hear me? Can everyone just give me say thumbs up, right? If you can hear me. It looks like Charles Mueller might be having some audio issues. So just want to make sure that it's not me. So, okay. Seems like Kelsey, you can hear me. So that's perfect. Yes. So the first question that we have is how to know when to ask for a raise. So the person wants to stay as an SDR, doesn't want to move to being an AE, how to navigate that conversation, or how to even figure out what options are available to you. I would say this is at the very beginning, right? Like as you're interviewing for a position as a sales development rep at an organization, like these are some of the questions that you should be asking, which is help me understand, what does career advancement look like at this organization, both within the sales development position and outside of the sales development position. So for example, at Gong, we have step promotions, right? So let's say that somebody starts off as a sales development rep. Based off of their performance over the course of a set amount of time, if they hit those KPIs, those performance numbers that we're expecting for them, they then are eligible for a step promotion up to a senior sales development rep. And with this, there comes a bump in your pay. So what does this mean for the rep, for an aspiring sales development rep? It means ask those questions up front when you're interviewing for a position. And the second part of this is also see if they don't already have an established career advancement path. I guess, inquire into if it's possible to negotiate a step promotion based off of performance within your offer letter. So that to me would be a couple of ways of figuring out, hey, how can I put myself in the best position possible to increase my earnings based off of my performance while being at this company as a sales development rep. if you're already in the sales development position, and there's not an established process for getting more money, right? Hey, listen, like here are the expectations that you need to abide by, right? And therefore you're going to get more money. If that doesn't exist, I would recommend having a conversation with your manager, and something as simple like, rather than saying, hey, I want more money, like give it to me or else, because I've done that before. It doesn't go over very well. I would recommend coming in and asking a question instead, like sharing, hey, Gabrielle, one of the things that I really would like to do is to increase my earning potential here at the company. I was wondering if you what would you need to see from me in order to feel comfortable partnering with me on increasing how much money I can potentially make at this company, right? And so the way that I've seen raises be done in the sales development world is either one, right? You can either get a bump on your salary on your base, right? So, hey, after X amount of time or X amount of opportunities generated or meetings booked, whatever KPI that you're held to and commissioned on, now you can start, like you can get a bump in your pay. So maybe it's from $50,000 to now $55,000. Or if that's not if that's not available to you, ask, hey, like, is there a way to start adjusting the payback, like how much I'm making on commission? So for example, when I was an SDR, a raise in my salary wasn't available. So what my manager did was work with finance and our sales leaders to change what my commission model looked like, my commission structure looked like. And what that went from was I used to get paid $75 per meeting completed with an AE, and then it bumped up to $100, right? So these are two of the ways I would recommend going about. You're already in the seat of an SDR. You want to make more money. I would say explore the options on what's possible with the base and what would be required of you in order to be eligible for that. And then the other part is going to be, hey, is there any kind of flex room on the commission? I think another piece here, like I think it would be irresponsible of me not to share this insight. There are the companies that I've been at, there have been bans put in or maxes put in place for how much money that we're going to pay somebody within a specific role. So for a sales development position, right, there's a few things that are going on in the background, which is there's going to be likely a cost, right, or some value associated one specific SDR, expect this SDR. Oops. So this might look like sorry, I lost my thought because the connection went out. All right. So I hope that answers some questions in terms of, hey, like, what can I do in order to, all right, and what can I do in order to make more money in the SDR seat? So quick recap. One, negotiate early before you've actually accepted the offer. Investigate to see what kind of career development or earning development can be done within the SDR seat. And then if you're already in the SDR seat, inquire into what options you have available to increase your salary and or increase your commission amount. So let's see. Do we have the next question? We've got Brooklyn. Brooklyn's working in the background here. It's going to pull up the next question for me. But I believe this next question is going to be, what does the roadmap look like for an SDR hitting their number to become an AE? So I don't, okay, this kind of goes back to what I was mentioning in terms of like asking for a raise. Your company's either going to have something in place already. They're going to have kind of a clear kind of career ladder set up for you moving through the ranks of an SDR program and potentially into the AE seat, right? Or another role, or they're not. They're probably going to be either like making one or they're going to do things ad hoc. But what I've typically seen, like this is what I understand to be true. The average tenure of an SDR is somewhere between, I believe, like 12 and 15 months before moving into the next position. So that's how much time I would really like expect to spend in the SDR role before expecting to get a promotion into that AEC. I know when I was at like this last company that I was at prior to coming to Gong, the expectation that I was set with everyone is 15 months of full production. So this included a 3-month ramp period plus 12 months of being at a full ramp quota. One of the things that I also recognize is that, listen, there's some folks who are going to be stellar, right, in terms of their ability to produce quickly, right, and significantly. So one of the programs that I put in place was, rather than just saying you need to be in the role, right, you need to have you need to hold a full quota for 12 months. I looked at more so, hey, like, what does 12 months of full quota actually mean? So for us, it was 144 opportunities that an SDR had to generate. And what we would do is if you hit 144 opportunities, right, whenever you hit that, you would then be eligible to go through a SDR to AE enablement program. And so this is an 8-week course, right? That, you know, where SDRs are meeting once a week with the appropriate people, whether it's sales enablement or sales leaders or with AEs, to learn the foundational aspects of what it means to be an account executive, but also they would get exposed to practical experiences that would prepare them for the role, right? You'd have the actual experience of doing mock role plays, for discovery calls, for qualification calls. It would be given access and experience to managing an actual opportunity as well. And so through this 8-week, even with this 8-week program, this enablement program, reps are and I say judge, what folks are doing is observing, hey, is this person actually going to be eligible to move into the AEC? So there was no guarantees in terms of, hey, you've been an SDR for 12 months, you get a ticket to play in terms of learning more about what it actually means to be an AE. You have to pass all these milestones of being a top performing rep, right? Or hitting those 12 months of full quota expectations. The second part is going to be passing and excelling in this 8-week enablement program. And then only once there is an actual like opportunity to move into the AEC, another word for this is once the business actually has a need for an SDR to move into the AEC, there's an open role, that's when the SDR would then move and be promoted into the AEC. So in terms of just managing expectations, right, I would probably expect more so around the 15-month mark, right? The roadmap looks like you're hitting your number consistently month over month or exceeding that number, then going through about like an 8-week program to get you indoctrinated into what it would be like to be an AE. And only once the company actually has a position open for you, that's when you would move into the AEC. So I'd say that's probably somewhere right around 15 months for the roadmap. It also looks like, I was going to say, I didn't know if Brooklyn had put in some information on that one, but if there's any more questions around that, whether your company has a roadmap in place for SDRs to manage expectations for moving into the SDR or moving into the AEC, or if you're looking for insights into like, hey, how can I guess persuade my company to put something in place like this, feel free just to reach out, right? Or mention something in the chat and I'll be sure to reach out to you. But then, so moving on to the next question then. Let's see. Next question, best advice for asking for a raise or hitting your number in the chat for a give. Oh, sorry. I'm like reading things out loud when I'm forgetting that I'm live. So every week, right, during this SDR hotline, we'll be doing a giveaway. And so this means sending out some sales hacker swag to you. And in order to be eligible to get this swag, you have to drop in a comment, which is, and the comment needs to answer this question. What is the best advice for asking for a raise, right? For asking for a raise, or even the best way of hitting your number. If anyone has any insights, any advice on best ways to ask for a raise, feel free to put that in the chat. Brooklyn and I will be selecting a winner of who's going to receive that giveaway gift, right? But just be sure to put a note in the chat in terms of what is the best advice for asking for a raise. Perfect. And so for this next question, any other possible branches in advancing my career from SDR besides becoming an AE, and where else can my SDR skills be used? So in terms of what other opportunities are available, I think with the SDR role specifically, number one, we're learning so much about the business. Like, what problems does the business solve? Who are we solving these problems for? What are maybe some of like the main issues or challenges that are, the market that we're going after is facing? So, and also, like, how can our platform specifically, right, and uniquely address those problems and those issues? So with this, I think there's an opportunity really anywhere in the business. I've managed reps who have gone into, of course, the AE role. I've managed reps who've gone into a more of a customer success role. I managed a rep who went from being an SDR to being a solution engineer or a sales engineer as well. So all this to say, I've seen people go into marketing after being an SDR, and there's also the path, the one that I took, which was going from being an SDR and individually contributing SDR to then going into management. So all this to say is, like, there are all the branches available. I think there could also be an opportunity, of course, to if you're going to programs outside of your workplace that are equipping you with the skills needed to go more into a tech position, right? So whether that's engineering or DevOps or even technical account management, or implementation, like, there are opportunities for you to, of course, like, do very, very well in the SDR role, raise your hand, raise your voice and say, hey, here's what I'm really interested in. Here's what I've prepared myself to do. So if you're going to go into the solution engineering piece, I would recommend meeting with those folks who are responsible, right? Who are the hiring managers for the solution engineers, or partnering with your manager today to say, hey, here's what I'm really interested in doing. How would you go about, how would you recommend I go about learning more about an opportunity to get here, or even how can I prepare myself to get there? So I would say work with your manager to identify, like, what are the things that you're interested in doing, and if and how your manager would be open to partnering with you on creating some kind of development plan to get you ready for that next step. So I use the example of a solution engineer because that's something that I did kind of ad hoc with one of the reps that I managed in the past. And what that really looked like was I walked over to the person who was our director of sales engineering. I asked him about how he hired, what he was looking for, what the requirements were, and essentially, like, what were the gaps in between the rep that I was managing and the kind of profile that he would hire for. And over the course of, I think it was about 2 or 3 months, right, we crafted an enablement program where every Wednesday, right, from I think from 4:30 to 6:30, he was shadowing our sales engineers and learning all about, like, our technology, how it integrated. And by the time that a position opened up, he was the first person in line to be promoted. And has since then, right, had like a very successful career thus far in solution engineering. So these are some of the, this is like just one of the ways that you can really allow yourself to create more opportunities, right, than just going down the traditional path of, hey, I want to become an AE. Perfect. So, and I think in terms of the second question, like, where else can my SDR skills be used? I think some of the, how about this? I'll ask a question. What skills, like everybody who's here, right? What skills do you see, what skills are people developing in the SDR role, right? Just feel free to throw them out, right? Some of the ideas that I would have initially, it's going to be, communication. Going to learn how to communicate effectively, might learn how to effectively identify problems, right? And being able to connect the dots in between a problem and a solution. Other things that you're going to be learning about are crafting emails, right? Like opening up the phone, running a conversation, potentially running a demo. Of course, these are things that are going to lend itself to becoming an AE, but these are also things that could lend themselves to becoming a very successful customer success manager. Or let's say, hey, listen, you're an SDR who is absolutely crushing it, right? You're hitting your number consistently, repeatedly, like over the top, 150, 200% performance, and you're like, hey, I don't know that I want to be an AE, but you really like teaching people how to, like, what you're doing to be successful. This might be an opportunity to go into sales enablement, right? You're already learning about what it takes to be a successful, like, frontline rep, If you're also doing activities such as leading teaching sessions and development sessions, or if you find yourself mentoring others, right? Or if you find yourself to be the person who's, where everyone's asking you all the questions and you're really that person who's answering those questions for them, and you're documenting how you've operationalized your own success, this also might be, a path towards, again, whether it's sales enablement or management. Perfect. So these are some of the top questions that got asked for today, in terms of, like how to get a raise, or how to ask for a raise, how to what to expect, what does a roadmap look like from being an SDR to going into an AE, and now, like, what other opportunities are there for career development outside of the traditional SDR to AE path. Are there any other questions that anyone has before we close out? And if not, that's totally fine too. I also think one of the things Brooklyn Nash is one of my partners here in this effort to share more on Sales Hacker with the SDR Hotline. And one of the main things that I was talking to him about right before we came on board today was just the world that we're living in right now, and specifically what's going on in our country. There's no hiding from the fact that we have an election that's happening right now, a highly contested election, a very close race as well, between Biden and Trump. And regardless of where we lead, like where we're leaning politically, right, or with our votes, this can be a really hard time for folks, like regardless of the person that you want to win is winning or not. And one of the things that I've been doing with my team is like moments to just like let it rip, right? Just to share what's on our heart, to share what's on our mind, to have that space just to be, whatever that means, whatever that looks like. And so I would highly encourage everyone, right, just to like find their spaces and find their places where they can let it rip, or they can just be themselves, where they can just share whatever it is that they're worried about or concerned about. And also, feel free to reach out. I said, if I haven't met you yet, I'm more than happy to connect, right? I can't stress this enough, right? We're a community. We can encourage each other. We can help each other. We can really be our sales development sisters, and like our sister's keeper, right? And our brother's keeper. So just wanted to mention that real quickly before we kind of close out today. And Patrick, it looks like you have it looks like you have a question here around how are you engaging with your team in a remote environment. I have not, I ask myself this every day, like, how can I engage more with my team? And I talked about this Let It Rip session. One of the ways that I did this, especially for this week, was just setting some time on Wednesday afternoon for everybody to connect and talk and just do like a Let It Rip session. So it looked like, every person on the team had somewhere between, 3 and 5 minutes just to share whatever it was they wanted to share. So we just held space for each other. We acknowledged each other. We thanked each other for sharing and just for being present. There's other things that we're doing that's, not specifically related to the election or what's happening in the world right now. It's more so focused on, hey, like, how can we become better? Individually, but also as a team. So one of the things that I've included on our calendar for my team is called the School of Sassery, where it's kind of like, we're learning about new concepts, new tricks, but it's also thinking critically about what this role of sales development calls us to do. There can be a focus so much on the product alone rather than the problems that we're really seeking to face. So taking a moment to ask those more critical questions and do so in a learning environment, and looking at this learning experience almost as like a ritual that we can all engage in. And this is one way that we can, not just engage in a remote environment, but also build a team dynamic and a culture in a remote environment. There's other opportunities in terms of how I'm engaging with my team right now, which is just being accessible, like being interested, sending a Slack message in the morning. Hey, how's it going? Or if someone's running late or didn't show up, right? Sending them a text message and just being like, hey, listen, didn't see you, just want to make sure everything's okay. But I think just demonstrating a genuine and general concern concern, right? And interest in everybody on the team individually, trying to understand more about where they're coming from, what's informing their point of view, like what is their background, those kind of things, and creating a space for us to learn more about each other and learn more about our roles and how we can be successful in a group environment. Those have been the ways that I've really been engaging the team in a remote environment. All right. All right. So unless there are any other questions, or if there's any last questions, feel free to put those in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to be looking at myself on the screen right now. And it looks like Kelsey, woo woo. Looks like you won the gift for the giveaway today. So super excited. Thank you so much for coming on and for commenting, and congrats for winning the prize. Brooklyn and I will be reaching out to you to figure out how we can get you your gift. So thank you everyone for being here today. Congrats to Kelsey for winning the prize. And then of course, just thanks for being here. Thanks for engaging. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.